Hey, just come and join the stream, Lincoln. Come on, it's a holiday. Just say hi to everybody. Get the party started. Come on, say hi. There we go. All right, see, it's a family stream day, the 3rd of July, Independence Day holiday here in America. So hopefully everybody's settled in for a good weekend. We've got family in town, which is a little bit unplanned, but that's okay. We're here and we're going to talk about hiring because I love hiring. I enjoy hiring. Oh no. Well, that's okay, Scrum Sarge. We love you. We love having you part of this. Thanks for coming. On a day off, right? I know it's a day off. Actually, I've got a resub here too. Here we go. Teamwork, Scrum Sarge. Together. All right. So, what's going on? It's craziness here. Oh, I have I broke my streak too, Scrum Sarge. Okay, yeah, I was kind of wondering, um, is it gonna be more crowded or less crowded today? Figuring if people were maybe out and about, or what was happening. So, but today we are going to talk. Man, which is crazy today. They are. All right, I'm gonna stop messing with Twitch, and I'm gonna actually talk about what we're talking about today. What are we talking about, Lincoln? We're talking about hiring. Hiring, probably the most important thing that you can do to grow your team, to make it better. Well, we got a hype train going? I don't know. My man Tyler with the resub. Thanks, Tyler. Good to have you. This is craziness. Okay, so we're gonna get back on track with this crazy guy over here making faces. Hopefully nobody's too distracted. So in our latest podcast episode, you're out of here? All right. Thanks for hanging out, buddy. Good to have you. In our latest podcast episode, we talked about superpowers and how everybody has superpowers. And if you don't have superpowers, we'll do a bit of if you don't know what your superpowers are, here's a couple ways for you to discover what they are. Because as you're learning, as you're growing in your career, you're figuring things out, but you really end up getting really, really darn good at some things. Often it's the things you do the most, that whole 10,000 hour rule. But one way to know is that if you ever depart a team or a company or any group of people that you work with, and someone says, hey, you know what, I'm going to really miss having you on our team because you do X, Y, and Z. And they're saying that because you've made a significant difference to their team. Without you being a part of the team would not be as strong as it was. So that's your superpower. So then the thing that we tried to do in our episode was ask you to really lean into that. If you start to recognize that you're really good at something, lean into it and become great. So that's really what we're trying to do, is help people discover the things that they're good at and then really maximize it. Because that's how great teams get great. We've talked about T-shaped employees and really making your stem of the T as long as possible. Really help that team get out. So everybody has superpowers. You likely have more than one. But one of the superpowers that I believe I have is hiring. And it's a good and a bad story. It's a good story, and then I've gotten really good at it. The bad part is that I've had to do a lot of it over the years. And initially, I had to do a lot of it because I worked for a really cheap company. and I would hire in really good engineers, and then I could not get the executives to pony up the cash to pay the engineers as they discovered how good they were. And we made them better, but they also were really darn good. So they grew, and unfortunately, we chose not to grow the salary with them. So that created this revolving door for me where I was continually hiring. While frustrating at the time, as I look back, that's one of those things that enabled me to get really, really good at it. And it enabled me to get some of the jobs that I got later in life. So that's the origin story of how I discovered my superpower, how I honed my superpower, how I figured out I'm good at it, and then how I really began to refine it. One of the things during that process, again, I wasn't aware of it. I was just kind of doing what I was doing, as we so often do. I had a peer of mine who came into my cube and he wrote 76% up on the whiteboard. I had no idea what he was talking about. And he said he had been tracking for about 3 months because he was surprised by it. The percentage of people that we hired once we brought them into the office, and we were operating at a 76% clip. So 76% of the people that we brought in, we hired. And I never thought about that. I never really focused on it. I was just trying to be good. Trying to get better actually, because I knew I wasn't good at it. So I really was iterating on it. Crazy concept. And trying to make it better and better. And we reached this peak of really hiring a lot of really good people, but it was based on all the things we did leading up to it, because I recognized how expensive it was to bring someone on site and the amount of distraction that we created for our team when we brought someone in for 3 or 4 hours and we pulled our team away and we asked that person to come in. So it was taking a lot of time and energy, and I really wanted to reduce the waste. So that was the key driver for me at getting better at it. Was I saw the hours and the stories that we were pulling away. So that was the reason that I focused on it. So, Scrum Sarge, I would say early in my career, I was lucky enough. After I had that cheap company, I worked for a multi-billion-dollar company, and they had lots of money, and they were willing to invest in external recruiters. And they helped me learn how to find good talent. I didn't know how to find good talent. I was able to, once there was a potential candidate sat in front of us, I was able to put a process together where we could figure out if they were a good fit, if they had the right mindset for us. Now, that one of the key mistakes that people make when working with external recruiters is they do not invest enough time with that recruiting company. You have to give them the feedback on why people do and don't work, why that resume you sent over was perfect and why this other one wasn't. Otherwise, how do they know? How do they refine? How do they get better at giving you the talent that you're looking for? And I ended up becoming really good friends with a couple of recruiters. One, because we gave them a lot of business, which was, nice for them. So they would take me out to lunch a lot, or we would go out for drinks and we would just start discussing things. And that gave me a chance to really dig in and understand how they do their job. So over the years, I've gotten better at going and finding talent. But early in my career, I really leaned on others who were good at finding it, while I focused on just refining, once I'm presented with a candidate, how do we decide if this is going to be a good fit. So that's how we got here. My number one mistake that I see people make when hiring is they let the calendar make the decision. They haven't found the person they're looking for. They're getting some pressure from an executive, from HR, from the recruiting company that they're working with, of you got to fill this position. And I've even been places where I've been told, hey, if you don't fill this position by this date, we're going to give the headcount to somebody else. So those were things that really focused me on refining my process so that we could get good at it. But there are always situations like that. And the worst thing you can do is hire somebody just to get a butt in a seat. You might get lucky, it might work, but the likelihood that you have a swing and a miss is quite high. So don't settle. The buzz phrase, not a buzzword, the buzz phrase that I always use is, if it's not a hell yes from your entire team, then it's a hell no. There is no middle ground. So that's one of the things that I really encourage people to do, is to really, really only hire when you're really excited about it. One of the things that I learned in the investing world from a CEO that I worked for, we were going out and acquiring companies, evaluating a lot of companies, and I would get sent out to do due diligence on the technical side of the company to go figure out if it was a good fit. And I remember the first time I was going out to do something like this, CEO, we were walking out to our cars after work, and he stopped me and said, listen, I want you to have this in your mind. I want you to understand that a fast no is better than a slow maybe. So if you come back from visiting this company and you're like, well, maybe it might work, then it's got to be a no. So one of the things I really encourage people to do to maximize the efficiency of their hiring process is to work on getting to fast no's. How soon in the process can we figure out that a candidate is not a good fit for us? How early can we make that happen? And do not take somebody to the next level if it's a maybe. That's a very expensive maybe. Think about how expensive it would be if I came back and said to the board of directors, you know, this might be a good fit. Let's send our lawyers out there. Let's send our head of sales out there. Let's send our head of marketing out there. That's a very expensive maybe. You've got to always be thinking about how quickly can I get to an effective no. Scrum Sarge, I get it. But my argument, well, I will say what I get for those of you that may have joined after Scrum Sarge posted his comment in the chat, and maybe you haven't seen it. So Scrum Sarge is mentioning that he once lost a headcount because they chose to pass on a candidate or a pool of candidates because they didn't have a great option. That headcount ended up getting allocated to somebody else, getting moved to somebody else. That stings. How painful would it have been if you just hired somebody and 2 months in you start to realize, gosh, this person really isn't a good fit. And then you start spending person weeks, person months trying to level up, or as I like to say, level out that person. That's a very expensive maybe. So my argument to you, Scrum Sarge, is that I think you did the right thing. I really believe you did, because I've made a ton of mistakes. A ton of mistakes when hiring, and it's very expensive. It's very expensive, and it's a draining thing. It is a sunk cost. There are few things as difficult as recognizing that somebody's not a good fit. And then from my perspective, one of the things that I try and do is I give everything I can, try and level that person up. And only when I really believe I've done everything in my power to help that person become who we need them to be, do I take the step of, okay, it's probably best if they're not a part of the team. And there's nothing worse than that. It's hard, and it's ultimately worse on the other person. So I understand that as well. That's one of the early lessons that I learned, is that unfortunately, one of the frustrating things that leaders do when they're letting someone go is they tell that person that's getting fired, they tell them how hard it is for the person that's firing them. When in reality, it's nowhere near as hard as it is that person that's losing their job. So if you're ever in a position where you have to let someone go, please, please, please never start the discussion with, listen, this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, right? That's just because, trust me, it's so much harder losing your job. So please don't be that person. Please don't be that leader. Have compassion, have empathy, but don't try and tell them the sob story on your end, right? That doesn't help the situation at all. So, Xenon, I can still say it right because you helped me that one day. What happens in larger corporations is there's money allocated to headcount. There's money in the budget that's defined for hiring new people. And I've seen leaders and executives that will say, if you can't spend it, I'll give it to somebody that can. We set aside $100,000 for us to hire this person, and it's 6 months in, and we haven't spent it. So it's clear in their mind. I'm not saying that I align with this. We don't believe you can spend it wisely, so we're going to go give it to somebody that can. Those are the things that drove me to this maniacal iteration on hiring. So if you ever find a point where you're struggling to hire, take a step back. And one of my favorite things to do is treat it like a product. Understand the features that are missing. Find the feedback loops that are too long. Refine the process. Build a new product, whatever it might be. Find out what the bugs are in your process, then dedicate time to fixing those bugs. And then one of the things I wanted to talk to this crew about was one of the biggest hurdles that I had, and I think people might be caught off guard by this, is hiring a scrum master. I was woefully prepared the first time I had to hire a scrum master. You might say, well, but Josh, you've got this podcast, 100 and plus episodes, and you talk about hiring scrum master, what it's like to be a good scrum master. And in reality, I had never done it. I had hired at that point hundreds of engineers. So I had refined my process, our process, really finely grained how to hire an engineer. And that worked really well. I had never hired a scrum master. So I had a bit of a panic attack about how do I do this? How do I apply the principles that I've learned in hiring an engineer to hiring a scrum master? Same thing happened about a year later when I had to hire a product owner. I'd worked with product owners. I'd helped other teams hire product owners, but now it was on me. Now you got to hire someone to lead product. Well, I've got a lot of thoughts and ideas on what that looks like, but I hadn't done it yet. So I had to go figure that out. In reality, what I discovered was that for the teams that I believe to be most successful, how I like to build and lead an organization, the most important thing for me is that we build a team of collaborative problem solvers. And that's really what I refined the hiring process to be for us, regardless of the position, regardless of the role, be it an engineer of any flavor, front end, back end, quality, you name it. a agile coach or scrum master, a product owner, product manager, someone in a leadership role. What I came to believe is that when I built a team full of collaborative problem solvers that could work together to solve difficult problems, magic happened. So that's what I evolved to building, and I'll explain what that means and how I tackle that in a bit. But I'm going to answer this question about how did I take care of the Scrum Master hiring situation. I will tell you, number one, I was lucky. We had spent a couple of years at the time really building our brand as an agile software engineering organization, and we believed we were the most agile in our region. So we became a bit of a destination job. When we opened up the Scrum Master role, the number of candidates we got that were amazing was quite frankly concerning. And Agile Biker will tell you about that situation, because Agile Biker was one of those people. And we came in and there were 3 candidates that were fantastic. And it really took a while for us to narrow in on what we thought the best decision was. And again, Agile Biker will remind you that he was not the one that was chosen. So yeah, there's that. But he'll also tell you that fueled him for building his career, which has been fantastic. But so to get back to the question of how I handled it, I really sat down and started to figure out what a successful Scrum Master looked like to us. And as I transitioned into hiring for more diverse roles, that's where I started to figure out what I cared about, what I believed a winning hire looked like. And I started to formulate my collaborative problem solver model in that moment. So that Scrum Master role, that was the first time I had hired a non-engineer. And I was a little bit freaked out by it. So what does that mean? What I like to do is I like to present the candidate with an opportunity for them to architect a system. And I use that very loosely because, again, what I believe is every person that comes in to be a part of our organization is architecting a system. It's easy for you to wrap your head around that for an engineer. I've got to build a mobile app, and the architecture has to be good and scalable and maintainable and all those things. But guess what? All those same things apply to building and refining an agile process. Is our process scalable? Is our process over-engineered, which it was at the time? Is our process easy to implement? Is it easy to onboard people to our process? So I would create a scenario where for the Scrum Masters that we were hiring, I would say, hey, I'm the CTO and I don't know this agile thing, but I want you to come make it however you think it should be. And I asked them to get up on a whiteboard and architect their ideal process for engineering software. It could be Scrum, it could be Safe, it could be, I don't care. You make up your own name. But I really want to know what that person thinks, what they aspire for that system to look like. For engineers, you're always going to come up with they want it to be architected well. Maybe it's a microservice approach, or maybe they've come from a place where the database infrastructure was bad and they're really passionate about that. So in that process where I ask them to architect their system, I'm there collaborating with them. So it's a dialogue at that point. I'm asking a ton of questions. I'm throwing out ideas. What I'm trying to see is is this person capable of having an open, honest dialogue with me, with the team, about how we're going to solve this problem? I accept it is unfair to ask them to stand up at the whiteboard and architect the perfect answer, because I try and make the problem as challenging as possible. But I want them to engage in a dialogue, and we're going to work together to figure this out. That has told me a lot over the years. So that's how I attack the problem, is that I began to understand what I valued when hiring. I'm a little scared to click on this link, Scrum Sarge, but I'm going to trust you here. See what comes up. Well, I don't know. Should I be concerned? Oh, Mountain Goat Software. Okay. Get an error when going in there, Scrum Sarge. So once I got over the panic attack of, oh my gosh, I've never hired this position before. How am I going to do this well? This doesn't make sense. I'm going to fail terribly. I'm going to hire somebody and they're not going to be a good fit. What I have boiled down hiring to me is, even with engineers, it's not about a checklist of things they've done or technologies that they've worked with. It is understanding how that person can decompose a difficult, challenging problem. And for engineers, how do they solve that problem with code? How do they wrap code around a problem solving? For an agile coach or a scrum master, they're presented with a difficult challenge of scaling an organization rapidly, growing an organization rapidly. Where is it going to fall down? Where is it going to fall over? What are they going to do? How are they going to educate the team on that process? How are they going to grow? How's it going to evolve? I've found that people of that mindset collected together can do amazing things. All right, I'm trying this one too. Hey, there we go. Big Lumbering Enterprises. I will have to check this out. So I hope, I know I didn't give you the specific questions that I asked or how we changed our process, but that's because what I really believe in is that it's less about the individual questions and more about learning and understanding how to evaluate how effective is this person at problem solving, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. And we're all focused on different problem sets. We're all focused on different areas of the challenge of delivering great software. We ask engineers to focus their time, effort, and energy on building the technical product itself. But I also have a desire for them to be aware and have passion around the process with which we collaborate. I also expect them to be able to have a dialogue with a scrum master or an agile coach about, why are we doing this way? It doesn't make sense. I think we might get more value if we're able to do it this way. And then having them work together to understand the issue and then put a plan in place to make any change that is necessary. The one other thing that I look for when hiring a scrum master is, I have found that oftentimes scrum masters will over-engineer a solution. I am guilty of that many, many times. both as serving in the Scrum Master role, but also in leading an agile organization. And the best Scrum Masters I had called me out on it. They were quick to ask me, Josh, do we actually have that problem right now? Well, no, we don't have that problem right now. But remember, we're adding a new squad every quarter. So this is going to be an issue. We got to solve it now. But we didn't have that problem. So I, again, back to collaborative problem solver, I needed a group of people that were willing and able to push back on me when I got a little bit ahead of myself. So we became really good at putting in just enough process to solve the problems that we had today. But luckily, Scrum Sarge, because it is such a trap, our agile coaches really led the way, and they owned that, and they lived that and breathed that. And because it is so easy to do, that collaboration that we had as a team of leaders, we would call each other out on it. And I was usually the one getting called out the most, honestly, which was sad and disappointing. So Lori Blue, number one, good to see you. I hope you were here early because we had the Lincoln sighting. He was right here making some funny faces. So if you missed it, go back and check out the replay. I know you always enjoy the family swinging in. So yes, we were talking about over-engineering the process, talking about hiring a Scrum Master and some of the challenges and fears that I had to do when I had to hire my first Scrum Master role. And I was talking about the mindset that I look for, but I also, one of the requirements I have for someone that's leading the engineering of a process is that they are willing to use the minimal amount of process to solve the problems that we have, and the problems that we have today, not the problems that we might have or we think we might have. And because it is so difficult, you really need a team of people focused on doing that together, because we all have an engineering mindset and we all get excited about building elegant solutions, about seeing a problem and architecting the best answer to the issue. And oftentimes, it's over-engineered. So it's helpful to have that collaborative group that is willing to call each other out and say, what problem are we actually trying to solve by adding that? And it is for the role that I was in at the time, leading the engineering team and leading the implementation of Agile, that was just a total gut punch when one of my team members would say, you're doing it again. You are over-engineering a solution. Not only are you over-engineering a solution, but you're over-engineering a solution to a problem we don't actually have yet. When I would stand up in front of the team and pontificate about being lean and doing the right thing and minimum viable bureaucracy and all this stuff, and then I would go and put my foot in my mouth. Lori Blue. I hire for the culture that I want. If you do not do that, you will never get to the culture that you want. And that is one of the hard parts. That is part of the superpower. It is really hard to build a hiring team to hire for a culture we don't have. So you have to spend a fair amount of time, effort, and energy explaining what we're looking for, educating the hiring team what great looks like. Again, it goes back to it's a hell yes or it's a hell no. There is no middle ground. There is no, well, maybe it might work. if we do this, this, and this, I think they'd be okay. No, that's a no. It's either we got to have that person or they're not a good fit. So, first and foremost, you have to understand what that culture looks like. That's problem number one. Problem number two is, can you effectively define that for your team? Are they able to understand what good looks like when they've never seen good? Like, that's the hardest part, is they've never seen good, because if they saw it, it would be right there. It would already be ready. It would be right in front of them. So now you have to educate them to hire something they've never seen before. How do you do that? um, yes, it is. Well, so Lori made a statement of empowering the team to understand the future, to have a vision of the culture. And is that art or is that science? And I will tell you, I don't think it's exclusive. I think it is a little bit of both. I think it is, and I'll try and break down the parts. The art side is, how do you, yeah, Scrum Sarge, I think you're right. The art part is a well-crafted vision, a well-delivered vision. And by that, what I mean is, you're right, Bob does have the art down. Lori, you are correct. So the art is in creating that vision for a group of people, selling that vision, explaining to them that we're here and we need to be over here. And the art piece is that oftentimes, and this is where the art comes in, is that people will say, but we're here and we've been here for a decade and we're successful and we've achieved this point and we just got an investment. So clearly we're doing something right. The art part comes into, how do you get them to understand that what got us here won't get us there? Not only will it, it hasn't. So for us to become the product, the organization, the team that we dream of, we're going to have to make some changes. And we're here, I'm here to help us go there. The art is, and I've been thinking about this, and I don't know how to say it because it's not 100% accurate. But in reality, what you're saying is the way we're doing it isn't good enough. So we're going to go here. That is better and will help us get to where we need to go. if you don't do it artfully, then that's what people hear. People hear you saying the way you did it was crap. When number one, it wasn't, because again, they've been successful, they've been acquired, they've had investment, whatever. They dominate the market, whatever the things are, right? They've done a ton of great things. So the art comes in explaining, we're here, we want to be there, and together we're going to make that happen. Now, the science part that I've learned is that when you're trying to drive fundamental change in the way a system operates and you introduce that change for the first time, this is many painful lessons learning this. When you introduce a change, so we're going to change the way we hire, we're going to change the hiring profile, we're going to change what our culture looks like, we're going to change the way you fundamentally do a thing. When you say that to a group of people, there is a significant portion of that group that is instantly pissed off at you. You're dumb, you don't know what you're talking about, you've lost your damn mind, all these things. And so that happens. They hear you say, we're changing the way you're fundamentally doing something, and people hear that and they get upset. They stop listening to the part where you explain why, where you say, here's why we're making this change, here's how we're going to make the change. So they initially hear, a significant portion of my day is now altered and I am not comfortable with it. So then they start having this internal battle in their brain. They don't like it. Well, maybe it's a good idea. And they're just arguing with themselves. They're not listening to you. So one of the key mistakes that I've made is I've introduced a change to our organization, and I thought I did a fantastic job explaining why and the reason and how we were going to get there and everything that went along with that. But 75% of the people, even though they were in the room, didn't hear me. The number of times I ran into a situation where people were unclear why we were making a change, yet when I was introducing the change, I looked in their eyes. I saw them. They were looking back at me. I assumed that meant their brain was fully focused on listening to what I was saying. But in the moment, they were frustrated by the change because change is hard. Change is hard on humans. So I learned an art to the science of repeating the same thing and continually educating folks on the changes that we were making and why. Because every subsequent time that I talked about that change, especially around culture, maybe they listened the first time 10% of the time. Then the next time I got them for 25%, then 50%, then 75%. So over time, they eventually, when I talked about that same change, they knew it was coming. They weren't mad at me. Maybe they were mad at me, but not as much. So their internal argument didn't get started until further into my discussion. So how did I figure that out? I did it. I was in a executive meeting and the CEO introduced something. I didn't like it. He did a fantastic job explaining why we were making this change, why it was so important, why he needed the leaders of the organization to be on board and help lead the change. But I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it because I disagreed. I thought it was a dumb idea. When if I had just listened, it would have made a lot more sense. But it didn't. So that was a moment when I realized and I understood what had happened. I then had this epiphany of, oh crap, I've got 70 people that just had the same reaction to a thing I just introduced to them. I'm doing them a disservice in thinking I'm going to explain this once and we're good. It's not fair. It's not fair to them. So that's the art and the science of introducing cultural change. The art is you have to tell somebody the way you're doing it isn't good enough. No one likes that. And I'm here to take us to a different place. No one wants to hear that. So you have to develop an art of how to, and I'm very particular with my words. One of the things that I never say to the team is I never talk about bad habits. I always talk about old habits and new habits. I don't say the old ones were bad. I don't say the new ones are good. I just say we have old habits and we need to build new habits. And I talk them through the change curve, like I just talked about, the change curve that we're going to go through as we work to shed the old habits and build new habits. From Sarge, I I often define my style of driving change as like erosion. Like I know this is the answer. I know this is what that new habit needs to be. But so often, if I just swing in and say we're doing X instead of Y, people treat it as a threat. They instantly don't like it because that's my idea. So I play the long game. You don't always have a long game, right? We've talked about this in the past. If you're in a consultative role or something like that, and you're only there for X number of hours, or you've got a short gig, like you got to make stuff happen right now. But I will play the long game. And there's nothing I love more than hearing someone say, "You know what? I think we should make a change. And I think this is a change we should make," knowing that I planted a seed for that change like months ago. That makes me so happy. Should have known Scrum Sarge would use military intelligence. Yeah, the number of that's some more hard lessons I've learned is trying to force change versus trying to spark a revolution. That's ultimately what you're trying to do. Think about human nature. Um, and I can tell you, I certainly align with this. I really don't like when someone comes in and tells me what to do or how to do my job. That um, that fires, as Scrum Sarge would say, a threat response. And I found that teams that I hire kind of operate like that too. But in the end, when you can spark a revolution, and it's the team's idea, boy, do they own it. Boy, are they passionate about ensuring that that change happens, that it works. That's when the magic happens. It's very rare, maybe never, that a true 100% top down change is as powerful as a revolution from inside. So, but that's harder. I think that's why you see so many top down models, so many top down leaders, is it's easier to just swing in from above and say, we're doing this. Because I have however many years of experience, I've done this n number of times, and this is the way it works. Right? That ultimately fizzles out. But when you can start that, oh man, you guys in these books that I haven't read. All right, let me go find that. Add it to the list of things I haven't read. Word Kraz 457's here. Gonna call me out. Oh, it's on the new list? Okay, good. Cool. There, okay. An easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones? I mean, if that's accurate. You know what? You know what you're going to make me do? You're going to make me hit the add to cart button right now. All right. I'm doing this because of you guys. Lori Blue, you're helping, but you're not helping. I appreciate it. Oh, all right, Scrum Sarge, fine. How do I argue with that? No, Lori, don't do that. Absolutely don't do that. All right, order placed. It will be here Monday. All right. Okay, so hiring. Let me try and summarize this. What has worked for me is treating hiring as a product, understanding the bugs that we had, understanding the new features that we needed. Understanding that it didn't have to be the way it was. Right? That's really, hold on. I gotta get a subtitle. He's been appropriately beating me up lately. And I appreciate it. But what I found about hiring, which is the thing that opened the door for me, is that you don't do it that often. So it's hard to practice. It's hard to get good at it. So I got really aggressive. I got really aggressive with trying to make it better because I didn't know when I was going to do it again. I didn't know when this next batch of new hires was going to be. It might be another year until we hire again. So I became super aggressive at how do I make this better right now? Because it's not like a sprint where every 2 weeks you're going to have a chance to do the ceremonies again, refine, have a retrospective, do all of those things. It doesn't work like that. Maybe if you're lucky, you do it a couple times a year. Sometimes you do it once a year, maybe once every other year. Who knows what? Like I said, I got lucky to be in positions where. Uh-oh. Sorry, I got totally distracted. Well, you got to come over. Come over here. Lori's here. Lori always likes to see family. You can't sneak by. Come on in. Come here and say hi, Lori. On the microphone.
Hello.
Oh, I was trying to get him to do specific call outs, but apparently not. So the biggest thing to do is recognize that it's not like all of the other things you do. You don't get a chance to iterate on it as quickly as you do everything else. So you have to, when you get the opportunity, you have to be hyper aggressive. hyper aggressive with trying to make it better as quickly as you can in the moment, because it might be months, maybe years before you get a chance to make it better. So when you do, really focus on improving it. When it is time to hire, don't settle. When it is time to hire, make sure the hiring team knows what good looks like. We talked about the art and the science that you're going to have to go through to transform people's mindsets into, we're hiring something different. That's a little bit scary. That's the art and the science of making that happen. I think I got it. Can't leave anything else. So everybody have a good holiday weekend. For those of you that are in the US and have the day off. For those of you that aren't, VA Agile, if you're out there and you're still awake down in Australia. Oh, doesn't look like you're here. Maybe you already bailed out. Have a good weekend. Oh, tokens update from Scrum Sarge. Okay. I'm gonna hold on. Give me a minute. I'm gonna get a drink of water. I'm gonna run an ad. Yes, Lawyer Blue, that is correct. $75%. Okay. I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be back. I'll talk about tokens. So you gotta deal with a 60-second ad. Sorry. I'll be back. Okay. So if you're a subscriber, I don't think you see the ad, so I made sure to move my microphone away, Scrum Sarge, so I didn't clear my throat in your ear again. Like I did that one time. Gosh, okay. Commercial break is over. Okay. Sorry about that. Very thirsty. Okay, so tokens update. If you remember, gosh, a month or so, probably more than a month ago, I had a last minute cancellation of the stream. We had a potential investor who wanted to talk. They were in Southeast Asia and were very excited about the tokens platform and what was going on. In the end, it wasn't a good fit. I didn't have a good feeling after the first talk. The vibe wasn't there about really buying into where we were going. And it went on, and we had a lot of back and forth, and got some really good feedback from them about what would work as a partnership, what wouldn't work as a partnership. It evolved into a partnership and then investment. But in the end, it kind of landed how I assumed it would, in that it wasn't a good fit. That's okay, but the good lessons learned. In the meantime, and so what this partnership was going to do was they were going to provide an influx of content creators across a handful of industries: musicians, actors, esports teams. They had connections across most of Southeast Asia that would have given us this huge influx of creators with very passionate fans. So it was really exciting. I thought it was potential for it to do some really cool stuff. In the end, it didn't work out. So coming out of that was confirmation that what we had built had legs, and what we needed to do was just get more creators on the platform with tokens. So I spent time trying to doing a lot of research, a lot of intel gathering. Scrum Sarge, I probably could have used you. Probably could have used you to gather the intel that was needed to find these like mid-tier streamers that I thought would be ripe for our platform. One, they weren't making the money like the big boys, and two, they weren't so tiny that the amount of transactions on token trading just wasn't going to be enough to create revenue for them to where it mattered. So I spent a few days doing that, and in the end, what I really learned is that there's a really rich, or there's, I guess, the haves and the have-nots in the streaming world. There are the big name streamers that everybody goes to, that everybody watches, and then there's everybody else. So one of the things that I've been evolving over time is I've got an idea for something that I can build that will allow the small streamers to work together to grow their viewership, to grow the number of people that are aware that they even exist. So I'm going to spend the afternoon working on that. I think there's real potential there. As well as things that as I sit and watch my son, who's streaming now, and one of the things to become an affiliate with Twitch is you have to average, I think, 7 viewers per stream. He doesn't have what I have, where I spent a decade prior to this building a podcast with listeners, of which a subset would come and view the stream. So I was able to make that leap pretty quickly, but I spent a decade building another brand that fed into this directly. So he was a little disappointed that it didn't flip as quickly as it had for me, but I really explained the decade, again, like I said, that I put in creating podcasts that were listened by no one. Until we got to the point to now where every podcast gets a couple thousand people listening to it each month. So, and that took time and patience. So then I started to sit and think and understand about the number of people like my son who dutifully stream every day for a couple of hours and no one shows up except for maybe friends or family, and how to change that. So what I'm trying to do is, the big streamers don't have time for tokens. They're working multi-million-dollar sponsorship deals with Gillette or whoever, right? Razer, all those things. Oh, where's my podcast? It is metacast.com. It's that little blue logo on the right hand of the screen. So I'm just going to solve that problem, or that's my current plan. My current plan is that I'm going to build a system for small streamers to help other small streamers to grow and become an affiliate, get those 7 viewers per stream, those 10 viewers, those 20 viewers per stream, and help them grow and solve the haves and the have-nots problem. That'll be on the tokens platform. It won't be using tokens yet, but there will be a time and a moment where, okay, I've grown enough that tokens probably make sense. So rather than trying to raise money to strike a multi-million-dollar deal with one big name streamer to use tokens. I'm not going to go that route. And one of the reasons why I'm not going to go that route is what I've discovered over the past year or so is that the things that I'm good at is building the products to solve the problems. I could spend a lot of time going out and chasing investment, having that investment, then going and chasing those streamers to sign that big deal. But that's not in my wheelhouse. So how long is that going to take me to develop the skills to do that, to make all that happen? Whereas what I know I'm good at is that I know I'm good at building a product and getting it out there and at least getting some eyeballs on it. Now I got to get the right eyeballs on it. Otherwise, I could build a million things that nobody ever sees. But I think this solves a more tangible challenge that small streamers have out there. Then as that tangible challenge is solved, then the tokens and the trading of tokens then is a logical next step to generate more revenue beyond subs and tips and everything that goes along with that. So that's my tokens update. Thanks for asking, Scrum Sarge. I'm always happy to share. So I thank everybody for tuning in on a holiday, on a day off, or if it's not a day off, where you are, for taking time out of your day, coming in chat. We are going to, so this is part of the plan. So we're gonna do this together. We are going to go raid another channel. You're right, Scrum Stars. You are invested. Thank you very much for that. We're gonna go raid a channel. So this is part of the thing that we're doing. We're going to enable other streamers to connect with other streamers via raid. So we're going to send our 8 or so viewers to another channel that maybe they've never been to, that maybe they never knew even existed. So let's see. I've got 3 options. Look at Lori Blue. Nice. Let me see. Adam. We're going to send it to the one with the smaller viewers. The Cyber Mentor. Okay. Here we go. Thanks for hanging out. Love having everybody here. And let's go see what the Cyber Mentor can teach us about. Wait, did it go? Did I not? Oh, there we go. Raid now.